Stop the world!
Welcome to Stop the World. I'm Olivia Nelson.
And I'm Justin Bassey.
Justin, it's great to have you filling in for Dave. The pod is back from a very short hiatus as we hosted the Sydney Dialogue, which means we have some exciting interviews lined up for our subscribers.
That's right, Liv. Last week we did host the fourth Sydney Dialogue, which is our major tech and security summit. It featured many technology, cyber security discussions, but it was really AI that featured most heavily across the 2 days. And so today, it's a pleasure to bring our subscribers the very first TSD Summit session on AI, a very frank conversation on AI risk and safety with Dr. Roman Yampolskiy and our own Dave Wroe.
Dave is in his happy place with this episode, and I will correct you that it's actually not our first Summit Sessions episode, but it's definitely the first post-TSD.
Post-TSD.
Roman is a leading global expert on AI safety. He's founding director of the Cybersecurity Lab at the University of Louisville and author of many books, including AI, Unexplainable, Unpredictable, Uncontrollable. Roman is both alert and alarmed by the progress being made in AI capabilities and is concerned that the same amount of progress is not being made in relation to safety.
Yeah, it is very interesting. Roman tells Dave that no one really knows how to control models which are as smart, if not smarter, than humans. And nobody knows what to do with superintelligent systems. And if superintelligence is 2, 3, or 5 years away, then we simply don't have the time to prepare our governance to ensure that it's safe. And despite the rapid progress, the risks of control haven't led to a pause in the development. Roman was, of course, one of the signatories to an open letter in October, which called for the prohibition of the development of superintelligence until it could be done safely. And Roman's of the view that we're definitely not there yet.
They tackle the really big questions. This conversation covers a lot of ground on AI risks and safety, but also the opportunities presented by the technologies, including in productivity and economic benefits, and also in areas like medicine. They also discuss the recent announcement from the US government around the Genesis mission, and Roman shares his thoughts on that.
It's a fascinating conversation. Dave does really ask Roman some of the best and biggest questions related to AI. Will AI make humans happy? Will it control us? And you might be surprised to hear that despite his concerns, Roman does really love AI. It's just that he thinks that we need to be smarter before we are outsmarted. Anyway, that's probably enough from us, Liv. Over to Dave and Roman.
Welcome to Stop the World Summit Sessions. I'm here with Dr. Roman Yampolskiy from the University of Louisville, Kentucky, famous AI safety researcher. Roman, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for inviting me.
And welcome to Sydney, and I hope you're enjoying the Sydney Dialogue so far.
Loving it.
Good. So you've written dozens, hundreds of papers, I think, published papers on AI safety. You've written books. Yeah, you're a very regular speaker on podcasts and at events. I mean, it feels to me as if the uptick in interest in your work has been quite noticeable in the last couple of years. That, it gives me some confidence that AI safety is being taken a bit more seriously than it might have been, say, 2, 3, 5 years ago. Is that an overly optimistic interpretation?
It's because we started at nothing. 5, 10 years ago, there wasn't a field. There wasn't any funding, conferences, not even a title for the field. I had to come up with a name for it. And then quite a few people jump in and developed amazing work in government labs, in industry and universities. So now it's an actual area within computer science of research.
Yeah, okay. So, distill your position on AI risk and safety for me, just to sort of let the viewers know a little bit about you and who you are. What is your, in a couple of minutes, what's your sort of basic thesis around the risks of AI?
I think we're making hyper exponential progress in capabilities of AI, while at the same time not really making much progress in safety. So this gap in capabilities versus our ability to control them increasing every model release makes it worse and worse, and that's the state of the art right now. No one knows how to control models which are as smart or smarter than a human, and definitely nobody has any idea for what to do with superintelligence systems. So it's interesting that this does not stop everyone from developing more capable models.
Okay. So, I mean, but does it come down to, and Geoffrey Hinton's put it this way, like this, there's basically a bad track record of less intelligent entities trying to control more intelligent entities. I mean, I think at a gut level, everyone on the planet ought to kind of understand that as a sort of basic concept. I mean, is that at the heart of what your concerns are?
Yes, but the examples we have, maybe less advanced technologically culture meeting more advanced one, the cognitive gap was maybe 30 points. I mean, it wasn't a big difference, and maybe less. We're talking about cognitive gap difference of hundreds of times.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think of, I don't know, farm animals or something like that. I mean, the fact is, sheep don't have humans running around in paddocks, for instance. I mean, that's probably more useful. Or ants and frogs don't, wipe out, human communities so that they can build a frog highway or what, that's perhaps a more useful analogy. But I suppose, I mean, is there any theoretical pathway, and has anyone done any work on this, including yourself, that could develop an approach that would mean that we could control superintelligent AI, even if it's much smarter than us, but we build it in a way that just ensures that it doesn't, that it has our best interests at heart ultimately. I mean, it might be able to go off and do other things at the same time, do scientific research, do philosophical research, do exploration, do all these wonderful things that, we hope a smart successor to us or a smart, a partner to us in the world would actually pursue. I mean, those are noble things to pursue. I mean, is there not a sort of theory that we can come up with to build that, to allow that to happen?
So we looked at that and we tried to understand what are the different types of control. So there is direct control where you just give orders and the system follows your orders directly. And usually the problem is it interprets them directly. So there is no nuance, and that's the genie problem.
Yep.
You have 3 wishes. Usually your second wish is to undo the first one because you screwed up royally. You didn't think through what you're asking for. On the opposite end of the spectrum of possible controls is delegation. Full delegation, you're saying this is an agent smarter than me, a lot smarter. It knows me better than I know myself. Why don't I just trust it to tell me what to do? Kind of ideal advisor.
Yep.
Maybe it's something I like, being told what to do, but I'm definitely not in control anymore. So depending on how much you prioritize safety versus control, there are kind of hybrid models trade-off between the two. But at no point are you both making final decisions and remain safe.
Yeah, okay. Would you personally object to being looked after by some future highly capable AI?
So it could be beneficial if it's truly understanding my preferences. The problem is if it doesn't, I cannot change it. And also, knowing the right answer is not always what the agent you're supervising wants. So I know that it's better for my children to eat carrots, not donuts. But if I always force them into a healthy choice, they will be quite unhappy.
Okay. I mean, I think of house cats as one example. My house cat is abundantly happy. I'm very sure of that. But I don't respect.
Was it neutered?
I don't respect it. Yes, it was.
Very happy cat. Very happy.
But I suppose. Well, look. I mean, I suppose. I wonder if there is a pathway to collective human happiness in which we do sort of delegate a lot of things, like governance, for instance. I mean, you could actually improve the lot of most humans if you improved service delivery, reduced poverty, do all those sorts of things. Now, it might be in ways that mean that we don't have complete control over the way our societies operate anymore, and potentially even our personal freedoms. There might. For instance, if you were going to do something stupid, reckless, for instance, because you get a kick out of it, like, I don't know, base jumping or whatever it is, and your super intelligent AI agent, guardian, personal assistant says, "Don't be silly. That's you're not in physical condition to do that, but you want to do it." You get into those sorts of, I guess, prickly questions about your autonomy and agency and your sort of self-determination and fulfillment as a human being, which is what we're sort of coded and evolved to do. We like, we get a kick out of doing those sorts of things. I mean, can you imagine a world in which we find a reasonable balance between, sort of comfort and happiness where we're looked after, but still being able to pursue our sort of, our human instincts, including to compete with one another? I mean, that's pretty fundamental to who we are.
Right. So this is not just about you agreeing to it. You have to get 8 billion people to all agree on something, which is basically impossible.
Yeah.
So one of my papers is a proposal for creating personal virtual worlds where you don't have to negotiate anything, you don't have to compromise. You get a virtual world, and in that world, you get what you want. You want it to be challenging, you get hardest challenges possible. You want it to be easy, it develops for you precisely the type of environment you would enjoy. So I think if you're willing to sacrifice reality for simulation, you can get something like that going.
But then we'd all be off in our own little virtual worlds doing our own thing. We wouldn't be together.
So you have a choice. You can let others visit you. You can visit them. And some people think we're already in that situation.
I'm not going to get into that because that's a whole other podcast episode. But I suppose my misgiving or my hesitation about that would be that it would, I guess, further atomize, human populations, people from one another if we all got to make our own choices. I mean, I do think a really important part of, of human history and human civilization is that we actually work together towards some sort of common agreement about how we should live our lives and, how we should live collectively in societies, in communities. So I guess that would be my objection.
And I think you have that freedom. You can make a choice to have a common virtual world, but it's a choice you have to make. I don't want to force 49% of population into a situation they hate. Okay.
Talk about safety research a little bit at the moment. I mean, what kind of safety research should we be focused on? I mean, let's say, you were put in charge of a moderate-sized nation for a moment as digital and science minister, and you had a budget of $20 billion to pursue research. What are the most important things that we could be doing right now?
To me, the most important question is the problem of control solvable? Is it even theoretically possible to indefinitely control smarter than human agents?
Yep. And
based on the answer we get, we would have completely different policy for development, for governance, for local safety.
Yep. Is there a start? I mean, if you were to put a grant proposal in for something like that tomorrow, what would it roughly look like? I mean, how would you go about trying to establish whether that kind of control is possible?
So I have published a number of papers looking at different tools we would need to control advanced AI, explaining it, predicting its behavior, and different types of control as we just discussed. The results are that there are upper limits on what's possible in that space. I'd love to see external confirmation or someone showing that no, in fact, it is possible. And we published a survey paper with over 50 different impossibility results from every field, physics, mathematics, psychology, all of them kind of saying, no, you cannot do those certain things. We've proven it's impossible. Mm-hmm. So do we need those tools? Maybe we don't need all of them. Maybe one of the tools can be used in place of another, but this is where we have zero research taking place.
Okay, all right. Explain your position on narrow AI versus generalized AI. We covered it in a session at the dialogue a moment ago, so I apologize for people who are watching both. We're going to repeat a little bit here, but I think this is really important because I hate the idea that people say, oh my God, you just want to bring this all to a halt. It's already yielding enormous benefits and advantages to economics, to medicine, et cetera. You guys are going to go and ruin everything for the rest of us. I just want to make sure that people are clear that that's not what you are saying, or that it's not what I'm saying. Just explain your position.
Right. So I love AI. I'm a computer scientist. I'm an engineer. I spend my whole life working with technology. I think it's incredible what it does for our understanding of science, engineering, economic benefits. But so far, what we got was really from narrow models trained on specific problems. The best benefit came from things like protein folding. Really impactful issue within biology, within medicine. I think they got a Nobel Prize for solving that problem. And they created a narrow model, trained on narrow data set. The model couldn't do any other things well. So it was dedicated to a specific problem. And we can do the same thing for our specific problems. It allows you to not only monitor progress towards your goal, you can also test it well. You can fully understand solutions. So there is no backdoors introduced into the outputs of a model. There is just no reason to create general superintelligence. Then you can get most benefits from narrow superintelligent tools.
Tools is an important word, I think. I mean, because that's what all of our technology up to now has actually been. I mean, however amazing and sophisticated a technology is, it has still been a tool. Here we are talking about something that would be an independent cognitive entity. It could be an agent in the world. It could be completely free to do its own thing. It could be free to form and pursue its own goals. Is that the dividing line for you, that it needs to remain a tool that sits there, awaits an instruction, it basically gets an input which is solve this particular problem for me, this well-defined problem, and give me an answer that I can then act upon? Is that a reasonable way of summarizing the kind of AI that you would like to progress with?
It is not a permanent solution, but I think it's the right path forward.
Yep.
We can still get most of the benefits. People can still make money, be happy doing research in that direction, but it definitely buys us more time. If we're saying general systems, AGI, superintelligence are 2, 3, 4, 5 years away, then we definitely don't have time to prepare our governance, economic support net. But if we switch to narrow systems, that buys us a couple more decades of productive research while at the same time preparing for what's coming.
Is it, and I mean, look, a bit of a fixation of mine is this idea of goals in AI models. I've asked Dan Hendricks about this. I've asked Connor Lee about this. I've asked a number of people. I'm very interested in your view as well, which is that it's never been clear to me why an AI would, a super intelligent even AI would actually form its goals. I mean, unless we actually deliberately build it that way. I would hope and suspect that it might be possible to build something that's super intelligent that sits there until we actually ask it to do something. I know where human goals come from. It's, I think, Brian Christensen, the technology writer, summed it up as, but basically our evolutionary drives mean we want ice cream, orgasms, fast cars, and respect, which I think is a pretty good way of summarizing it. But basically we have these inbuilt drives that have developed over millions of years. AIs don't have that. I don't know why they would actually want anything in the way that we do. Why is that a worry?
So Steve Amahandro actually answered that question with a paper on AI drives.
Yep.
The assumption is, for game theoretic reasons, whatever it is you're trying to do, certain things just make perfect sense in any domain, any world, for any agent. You want to get resources. You want to protect yourself from modification. There is a few others, and people argue about additional ones. But the point is, those are instrumental goals to get any other terminal goal.
Yep.
But I think for sufficiently advanced agents, they substitute for terminal goals. They become the final goal.
Right.
You just want to take over the universe, have capabilities to do whatever it is you decide later. If you learn you're in a simulation, you hack out of it, something new happens, you prepared for that outcome. If you're communicating with cosmic host or anything like that, any crazy outcome, you are ready for it. And that's what intelligence is all about.
So I get the idea of instrumental goals, but that is because we are optimizing them to pursue a particular task, right? So if we basically give them a task, I don't know, cure cancer in the whole population, they will necessarily need instrumental goals to enable them to do that. Yep. To complete that task. And that might include resource acquisition. It might include self-protection so that it can't be switched off. Obviously, it can't cure cancer if it's been unplugged. Those sorts of classic instrumental goals that people have talked about. Is there not an alternative architecture for AIs where we simply, rather than optimizing it towards some high-level goal, instead I don't know, we ask, I think Stuart Russell might have written about this at one time, but that we ask it to, sort of, I guess, solve bite-sized problems and keep checking back with us that, are you happy with the approach that I am taking here? I mean, is that a sort of architecture that we might be able to work on?
So you set a goal of be alive and keep checking on me. So now I have to stay alive. I have to make sure I have enough power to keep running. I have to have new hardware delivered so I can keep running. It doesn't simplify anything. You just kind of made a silly goal.
Right. Okay. All right. Governance. You've mentioned governance. You've touched on that briefly there. I mean, how do you assess the state of governance across the board as we sort of, as we face the real prospect of powerful AI that could be considered generalized in the next, depending on who you listen to, somewhere between 2, 3 years and 10 years. I mean, when you look around the global political landscape, what do you see in terms of governance? I mean, is there are we even remotely scratching the surface?
So for a few years, we had what I would call security or safety theater, where we passed legislation just to make people feel like government is doing something. Mm-hmm. With the latest administration, at least in US, even that has been removed. Now we just want to accelerate as much as possible. Yep. People are saying AGI by 2027, and government says, nope, too slow, we need to go faster. Let's create this Manhattan-sized project to accelerate this. So that's the state of the art in governance.
Well, let's focus on a specific instance there. I mean, the Manhattan Project that they've talked about, I think it's a Genesis mission that they've talked about. Do you? I mean, that's a really interesting practical example, because as I understand it, they would be looking at, using all of the sort of corpus of American data, research, papers, any federally funded project. I think there are fewer federally funded projects in science now, other than maybe vaccine skepticism. But that cynicism aside, I mean, bringing together everything that amazing US innovators have done over the past 50 years or so, and using that as to sort of train an AI model that can then, automate scientific progress and hopefully speed up advances. Do you have a problem with that?
So that's as general as it gets. Automated scientist is the ultimate generality. That's knowledge creation machine. Okay. You have a scientist and engineer capable of engaging in recursive self-improvement. That's literally as unsafe as it possibly could get.
Okay. I mean, just from a capability point of view, I mean, do you think it would actually work? I mean, let's say it's training on existing human created data. And I think David Silver from Google DeepMind and Rich Sutton put out a paper on this earlier in the year. They talked about, that I forget the experience model or something like that. If we're going to get beyond the sort of limitations of what humanity has already come up with, AIs are going to have to go out and engage with the world, create their own new data by doing that, and progress is going to be made that way. I mean, do you actually think that the Genesis mission will even be successful if it is just training on existing human knowledge?
Well, we know scaling works, so we're definitely going to increase scale of data sets, scale of compute available. On top of it, even if there is some limiting factor to only training on human data, we can still do virtual simulations, we can do self-play. There is no shortage of ways to generate new data.
Okay. So that's a yes, basically.
It depends on what the question is.
Well, sorry. Yeah, that's a yes that it will actually work, and that it could actually. Well, I suppose. Let me refine the question slightly. Will it make incremental improvements in say scientific and medical research, or could it come up with a paradigmatic breakthrough of some kind? Like, let's say, I mean, a sort of level of sort of Einstein coming up with his two theories of relativity.
So today already we see models doing original work in mathematics, in physics, in quite a few domains. So yeah, if they manage to increase scale of those training runs, I think they'll get even more impressive breakthroughs.
Okay. So we could have amazing medical advances, but it's highly risky at the same time.
Right, because the model is generally more capable in other domains. So whoever has access to it, government employees initially, and then later model itself can come up with something very unsafe.
Okay. Right. One other thing I want to touch on is interpretability. I mean, this is a really important area. You and others have talked about. I mean, one of the big problems with AI models is that they are vast and they're complex, and basically have no idea what's going on inside them. I mean, we train them on a large amount of data. We write the algorithms, but then we leave it to itself, and it trains and it comes out the other end as something something that that has grown and we fundamentally don't understand. What do you make of interpretability research at the moment? Are there, in principle, answers to better understanding what is going on inside large language models? And would the research that's required impede the speed of progress with LLMs?
So mechanistic interpretability is a dual-use technology. Luckily, we haven't made a lot of good progress in that field, as you pointed out. But if we did, that would just make recursive self-improvement a lot easier for models. So there is very little purely safety research you can do. All of it is contributing to capabilities work disproportionately well.
Okay. One more before we wind up. We're making these lightning rounds for podcasts. The geopolitics. I'm going to say something, and I want your response to it. The bigger risk. So let's say let's say I am uncertain that superintelligence will be catastrophic for humanity. Let's say I think it might be 1%, which is even pretty high, but it's better than 99.9%. But I am very worried because I sort of fundamentally believe in a rules-based international order. I believe in democratic values. I believe in human rights. And therefore, I want one side of the global geopolitical schism to win the AI race. I would prefer the US to win over China. If that is my preponderant concern, rather than the existential risk of superintelligent AI, it makes sense for me to argue for US progress as fast as possible. Tell me whether I'm right, wrong, or can you see my point of view?
Well, let's play this out. So let's say I'm completely wrong and it's possible to indefinitely control superintelligent machines. And let's say Chinese get there first and they got well-controlled superintelligence. Would they actually use it to make better decisions? Probably. That's the whole point of having a superintelligent advisor. So if it's that intelligent and you are so right, it would give them exactly that advice. It would tell them, well, you should do more of that human rights thing. And they would, of course, listen to it because they created it exactly for that purpose. And we're all going to sing Kumbaya. It's going to be beautiful.
Right. What if it only answers the questions that they ask it, and they ask it, how can we better take control of Taiwan by force? How can we better expand our area of strategic operations through Asia?
If you have access to superintelligence in a true sense, those things have no value. Why would you want to control a tiny island when you have access to taking over the universe?
Okay.
It's just small thinking.
Okay, fair point. Okay, so, all right, but that's assuming that superintelligence
you can do the impossible.
is not, which you assume is impossible. Okay, all right, that's. I think you've convinced me. Roman, thanks so much for coming on the pod, and thanks for coming to Sydney.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Stop the World. That's all we have time for today, but we will be back with another episode very soon. Ciao.